Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? I'm on another DOT break. Let's talk movies. Last month I reviewed A Good Year starring Russell Crowe from 2006. That's relevant because yesterday, while I was making some Thanksgiving dishes and just doing stuff in the kitchen, I watched The Holiday, which was a 2008 movie with a strong ensemble cast. By the time it was done, I realized this was basically 80% of A Good Year. It's a similar movie, but just following that principle of the story will go a little bit different depending on whether you're aiming it at men or aiming it at women. In this case, the general premise is that two busy working women who have complicated love lives get online, and on a spur of the moment thing, they join a home swap vacation arrangement where for 2 weeks they will each live in the other's house, and without ever having met each other. I mean, this was 2008. People were still just a little bit naive about this sort of thing. Nowadays, it'd be a great way to get trafficked by some dude named Abdul, but I digress. And they end up solving the problems in their personal lives by just living somewhere else for a little while. All of the casting in this movie was just beautiful people at the top of their game. The shooting locations, beautiful homes. The music in this movie was a character unto itself. It was omnipresent. Even during the calmer scenes, there was something smooth going on in the background. And I just found it to be overall, a really feel good film. Like, this is a warm blanket in movie form, kind of like A Good Year is. You would sit down and you would watch this when you just need to chill. You want life to be simple and you want to imagine ease and comfort coming to you with, some personal cost, but very little otherwise. There was a British woman and an American woman, one from Surrey near London and one from LA. The LA woman was played by Cameron Diaz. Her name was Amanda. And the Brit was played by Kate Winslet. Her character's name was Iris. She works at a publishing house. I guess they do magazines, but also books. She's in love with a coworker of hers named Rufus Sewell. No, that's the actor. His name is Jasper. And they had a thing before, but he cheated on her, but she's still in love with him, which is just like anybody will tell you, like, oh, that's pathetic, but there will be plenty of women who'll be like, oh, but I can change him. You cannot. You already could not. Like, this dude is going to constantly use you, and you are the last person in the world who's going to figure that out. Classic case of that. And when he gets engaged at the company Christmas party, she decides that she needs to just get the heck out of Dodge, and she goes and accepts this proposal from Amanda, who also needs to get the heck out of Dodge. Over in LA, Amanda is a very successful businesswoman. She works near Hollywood. She owns a business where she creates movie trailers, and they make some jokes about that throughout the movie. Like, she'll hear the trailer voice, like the epic trailer voice guy in the back of her head while she's trying to focus and whatever. But she's such a workaholic that she's not able to really focus on having relationships, and she's got a guy that she's in a relationship with, but he cheats on her. She kicks him out, and she decides that she just needs to stop working and unwind for 2 weeks, and so they get into this situation. When they switch houses between LA and London, all of a sudden Iris is meeting with a guy named Miles who works with Amanda. Miles is played by Jack Black. This is one of his more serious roles. He's a musician, and it's his job to compose music for films and stuff, and he's a big movie score buff, which is an underrated niche interest. And he even takes her to Blockbuster and talks about the scores in movies and how it works. And if you're kind of in my vein, you'll appreciate movie score composers, and you'll have CDs from film scores lining your shelf. But I digress. I like that was its own element to the story. Iris also meets a local old guy. He's in his 90s, who was one of the early up-and-coming greats back when Hollywood was taking off before the big studios and corporations came in, back when it was just film for the pure passion of it. He often laments the fact that everything is monetized and corporatized, and everything has to be a massive success or the studio folds, and he loves old cinema back when it was pure. And as Iris strikes up a friendship with him, he constantly recommends movies to her that all have not strong female characters, but his thing is leading ladies with gumption. And she takes inspiration from watching these movies and realizing that like she needs to have gumption and stand up for herself and finally get over this scumbag guy who has been cooking her up on the side while still like carrying on a more serious relationship with another woman. And so she learns how to stand up for herself. It's strong, not like oh girl power. It's like you would want any character to be able to do this and stop being used in this way. Meanwhile, Amanda, while she's staying at Iris's house, she accidentally stumbles across one of the great fictional Grahams that I have recently discovered. If you saw on the Cracker Stack a couple of months ago, I did the top 10 fictional Grahams. I was only able to come up with 8 fictional characters whose first name was Graham, and the other 2 were like the number 9 and number 10 spot were held by guys whose last name was Graham. And I was like, we're going to let you in on a technicality, but we need more representation of the Grahams in fiction. I forgot about this dude. I think I remember hearing that he was a Graham, but anyway. Played by Jude Law, just hammering his charming Britishness to the max. And he strikes up a relationship with Amanda while she's there, and then she finds out that he's actually a widower and he's got 2 daughters, and he wasn't necessarily hiding it from her, but he's still trying to figure out how to juggle these different aspects of his life. And he's able to help her get over some emotional roadblocks in her life and vice versa. And now they've got the struggle of figuring out like, well, his life is very firmly in London and hers is very firmly in LA. Well, what do they want to give up in order to have something better? And while that's less of a question for Iris over in Los Angeles, it's definitely a question for Amanda in London, in Surrey, which is where this movie really echoes Russell Crowe's arc in A Good Year. He needs to learn to give up his high-flying, money-earning, stock trading, like everything is about taking from somebody else type life, and just live the slow, peaceful life in the countryside, drinking wine and having dinners and being in love with the local French girl. It's about forcing yourself to change your perspective and your value system in a way that the character would not have at the beginning of the movie. Meanwhile, there's beautiful music in the background, beautiful photography. The casting is all handsome people in their prime. It just works. It scratches that itch. Whereas Russell Crowe is a manly man doing manly things and coming to a manly conclusion in A Good Year, and Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz are women that need to kind of get out of their own way. Iris is hung up on a guy. Amanda is an absolute mess, and they figure it out by switching their situations and realizing what they need to change. Good, strong character arcs, and these are the kind of movies that are just like you sit down, they're beautiful to watch, they're beautiful to listen to, and they know their audience, they don't fool around, and they get the job done. When I told my wife I had watched The Holiday, she was not mad, but she was a little bit upset. She's like, I love that movie, but I didn't want to recommend it to you because I didn't know if you would like it. I would have watched that one with you. She was surprised at how much I enjoyed Pride and Prejudice a couple of months ago, too. I've still got to do my video on that. But anyway, hearty endorsement for The Holiday. There is sensuality talk. Amanda and Graham hook up pretty much immediately, as all attractive women are unable to resist the charm of a Graham. And I think Jack Black does what Jack Black always has to do in a movie, and he drops one F-bomb in there. Kind of pointless. He's a guy that you wouldn't expect him to be a leading male interest in a romantic comedy, but his musical background, I think, is what came to bear in this particular script, because his character was a musician and had to have a love and a passion for music. And I will say this about every performance in this movie, they all sold it. Cameron Diaz sold it as being a mess. Iris sold it as being a woman hung up in love with a man who will never love her back. Jude Law sold it as a guy who was really trying to juggle this new dimension to his life of being a widower for the last 2 years. And Jack Black sold it as a guy who just loved film scores. So great performances, great casting all around. Hearty recommendation, just be advised of the content warning. I'll do another video later about some other stuff that I watched. I did recently watch Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Lots to enjoy about it, lots to criticize about it, and after having seen it, I understand why it underperformed at the box office, but we'll cover that in another flavor later on. Hey, thank you for watching that. Did you know that I'm also an author? You can check the description for a link to my book, Mr. Friday. It's set in a future where Black Friday is militarized and televised, and the best Friday fighters end up getting sponsors and backing, but it just so happens that the very best of them actually wants to take the holiday down. When he's approached by a couple of other like-minded fighters, he jumps at the chance, and it goes haywire from there. This is a short novella, and it's available in ebook format for just 99 cents. Drive safe. See you out there.